Hello everybody, welcome back to part 5 of the Border Corner. Some of the things we're going to look at today is nest pan preparation for the border canaries. I've been caught out actually. I was expecting to be pairing up the birds towards the end of March, beginning of April, but I've got a hen who is showing all the signs of wanting to go down to nest now, and a second hen isn't far behind her. Funnily enough, they're both unflighted birds. The flighted hens are a bit behind still yet, so again I don't know whether that's normal because of learning about them. So that's going to be something we'll look at today, is doing the nest pans. They haven't shown a lot of interest in the pans being on the front of the cages, so I think that's a good sign. Hasn't spooked them a bit or anything. So we'll crack on with that first, and then after that I'm going to show you another one or two of the pairs that I've got planned for this year. I'm just starting my nest preparation today, ready for the getting the felt stuck into the nest pans. I use carbolic soap, which I grate up and then put it with some boiling water, and then I turn that into like a really soggy sort of paste. Might really don't like carbolic soap. It's got quite a pungent smell, so by the time you've grated it and it becomes glue-like and you stick the felt into the nest, it proves to be quite a good barrier to stop the mite getting through. So the first thing is tub, grater and some carbolic soap, and start the process. And all I'm going to do today is grate up the carbolic soap, get it into the bowl, and then add some boiling water to it and mix it up and create the paste. And then I'll leave that overnight so that make sure it's absorbed all the water that I put in. And then tomorrow I will start applying it to the nest felts and adding it to the pan. So we'll kick this off now and I'll start doing some grating. Now this is going to be a bit boring, so I think we'll probably speed this up a little bit. So there we go, that's half a bar of grated carbolic soap, and now I'm going to add some water to it. Boiling water, give it a bit of a stir straight away. You don't want this to be too runny, because if it's too runny you won't get it to stick properly. And that's it. So I'll put the lid on now, and then we'll be back tomorrow to do the next bit when we put the first felt in the nest, and I'll show you how I do that as well. Okay, so we're going to look at nest pans first off. I've got all my stuff ready. I've got my 10 terracotta nest pans. I've taken them all off the wire rings that I put them on last week. As I said earlier, the birds have pretty much ignored them, so hopefully they'll be quite used to them. I've got my nest felts, a pack of nest felts there, diatomaceous surf. Be careful with this, it's really powdery, you don't want to be breathing it in, so be careful when you're applying this to the felts. And then yesterday we did our mix of carbolic soap. As you can see, it's quite lumpy, so it's quite nice to be able to, when you press it, you can push it down quite nice, so that should be okay. So first of all, what I always do first is nest felt in the pot. So you put the nest felt, bury it in the diatomaceous earth, lid on. I've only got 10 hens, So this is, it's a little bit labour intensive, but it's probably not really a problem for me. If you've got a lot more, I'm sure there's better ways that are quicker than this. So it's absolutely buried in there, and then we take it out so it's nicely covered, and then you get your diatomaceous earth, sorry, you get your carbolic soap, and then you basically just spread the carbolic soap over the surface of the nest felt. It's not the cleanest and tidiest of jobs. So you've got a good spreading like this. Then you take your nest pan and then just gently push the nest felt into the nest pan, and then with your thumb push all around, pushing it down. Now the diatomaceous earth and the nest felt being so dry will take out any remaining moisture that's in that carbolic soap, and then that'll give us a nice tight seal of that felt. Okay, so 1 down, 10 to go. So last one. It's not the tidiest and cleanest of jobs to do. You don't want to be doing this indoors because of the mess that it makes. First time I did it on the kitchen worktop. So that didn't go down very well. So that's that. In it goes. And there we go. That's all of my nest pans for the first round already. What I do now with just a normal baby wipe is, because it causes a mess, you don't want any of that carbolic soap getting stuck on the hen's feathers anywhere. So I just get the baby wipe right around the outside of the bowl, so that's clean, and then around the inside, just to make sure it's all that carbolic soap is wiped away. The reason that I started to sort my nest pans out this week was because of the activity of this young hen. She's another unflighted hen. In fact, this is the hen, my first hen that I've bred. She started to try and make a nest in the corner, but I was just ripping up the bedding that I've got under her gypsy, and she found that and shredded that and started making a fairly rudimentary nest in the corner. So I dropped in a few pieces of string just so that I wanted to test around. She immediately took those and added it to her pile. So I took that as my cue to start getting the nest pans ready. As soon as the pans were done, I put the one in her cage, and she immediately destroyed the felt that was in the pan and used bits and pieces of that in her nest in the corner. So I took the nest pan out of the ring and placed it in a corner on top of the mess that she'd made that she thought was a nest, hoping that she would adopt it. All she did was move to another corner and did the same thing. And that exercise was repeated in all four corners of the cage, so much so that she couldn't actually get to her food or water. So obviously that's not a good situation. So what I did was I got a small earthenware dish and I put a nest felt in it and I placed that in the corner. And I put a little bit of bedding in that. And she started to look as if she was going to make a nest in there. When I've come in this morning, she's destroyed more of the felt and she's made a nest in between a grit pot, which was actually at the back of the cage. She's pushed that forward. So she's made a nest between the grit pot, the back of the cage and the small earthenware bowl. So I don't really know what she's going to want to do. I've given her an option of cocoa fibre and sisal and some jute string in the basket. There's quite a lot in her cage at the moment. I was trying to give her a lot to try and occupy her, to make it easy and hope that by doing that she'd build in the nest pan. But alas, nothing doing. I've taken the cockbird, the stud cockbird, and put him in with her, and they're fighting at the moment. So I left him in for about 5 minutes and all he did was chase around the cage, so I took him out. So she's not quite ready. He sang immediately and was stood up on his toes and was bouncing and singing and chasing her. So I think if he's not in breeding condition, he's pretty close to it now. But she's obviously not because we didn't get anywhere with her. So that's my existing pair that you've already seen, but I just wanted to show you what happened in their nest. Next up, I have a self-green hen. She's a 2020 bird, and I've got her paired with a heavily variegated yellow cock. He's the oldest bird that I've got in the room. He's on a red ring, so I think that makes him 2018, so he's 5 this year. So I don't know whether we'll get anywhere with these two. She's been very active with her nest, and as you can see from here, we've got a good nest built up already. So she's pretty close to being in breeding condition. If she's not there yet, then she can't be far away if she's breeding like that. I haven't seen him feed her, but I have seen her being quite attentive towards her. He's carried some bedding to her and she's taken it out of his beak and used it in the nest. So I'm hoping that they might have gelled, and we'll just keep our eye on them. So yeah, so self-green buff hen with a heavily variegated yellow cockbird. Here's a quick sidebar on the self-green hen and the heavily variegated cock. As you can see, she's picked up some kapok and is burying herself in unless she almost disappears. So she did this last year. She was the mother of the self-green hen I showed you earlier, and she gets so much of the nesting material above her. When she's in, as now, you can barely see her. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for these two, because he's a really good cockbird, even though he's 5 years old now. And she's produced me 2 really good little uns last year. So fingers crossed. I thought you'd like to see her getting herself snug in her nest. So this is one of the other pairs that I wanted to show you. I've got an unflighted hen who's just ripped up a large piece of newspaper from her bedding. I mean, honestly, I put so much gypsy on top of the newspaper, I didn't think they'd find it, but they both, that and the other hen, have dug it out in no time. So here we've got an unflighted hen. You can see she's trying to decide what to do with this piece of the Daily Telegraph. I don't read the Daily Telegraph, but it's a good size broadsheet newspaper for using on the bottom of the cage. So I've got her paired with a yellow cockbird. He's almost a clear, but he's just got a few feathers on his right wing. We can't quite see it, but he's got a few feathers on his wing that are rather dark. So he's on a purple wing. So he's 2 years old now. So I've seen him tread her 3 times already. He trod her twice yesterday, and then he's trod her once again this morning that I've seen. So there may have been more activity than that. He's got quite a nice type to him. It's quite nice cutting to the neck. I quite like him. He's probably not as good as the 2 main stud cocks that I've got, but he's a nice bird nonetheless. She's a nice little thing as well. She's probably a little bit flat on the back, if anything. She's not carrying that much around this, and there's not much of a cut into her neck, but nonetheless she is quite a nice shape. And obviously this time of year they're not going to be looking their best as showbirds anyway. So, but yeah, so hopefully between the 2 of these we might be lucky enough and get some chicks. So I've only got a few birds, as we know, as I've talked about. So because of that, I'm going to try and breed. I know that the objective is obviously it's quality over quantity, but I still need to get a good number of birds that I can start being picky and start choosing from and start building my stud from. So yeah, so that's another new pair to show you. In the first video that I did, I showed you the bank of blue cages, which forms the main part of my breeding cages. These were given to me by a fancier. I won't give his name. They were given to me because he came to visit me with a friend and realised that I had very little in the way of cage space. So he very kindly donated this back batch of 18 cages, and my other friend took them away and refurbished them all for me. So they're all rubbed down and all painted up and installed at the back end of the summer. So I've got a nice bank of breeding cages ready for this year. But furthermore, in the far corner there, you can see that there is wall space. So my friend, what he's going to do is he's already measured that space for me, and he's, as we speak, he's making up some more cages to go into that corner. So that'll give me, I think it's another 6 breeding cages, might be 4, can't remember, but another 4 to 6 breeding cages to go into that corner. So that will increase the capacity of the bird room. And then a project that I'm going to work on, which I'll cover on here, is there's going to be a new bank of cages which will go onto that whole back wall. There'll be hopefully 16 cages to go onto that back wall as well. So that'll give me cages all around the bird room then. So if I am lucky enough to start breeding reasonable numbers of birds, then I'm going to hopefully have a reasonable amount of cage space in which to put them. The first thing that we're going to do today is my son's home from university and he's going to help me start sorting out this back wall so that we can get another bank of cages on here. So first things first, it's time to tidy up. Well, that's the end of part 5 of the border corner. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I know I've done a couple of videos now where there's been a reasonable amount of things going on, a reasonable amount of information. The Nest Pan one today as an example, and when I did the soft food one, I've shown you in a reasonable amount of detail what I do and what I'm doing. Excuse me. Please let me know if you think this is okay. If I'm going into too much detail, let me know and I can reduce it a little bit. Or if it's spot on, again, it'd be good to know that what I'm doing is pitched at the right level. I want the videos to be enjoyable and informative, so if I start moving away from that, then I'd like to know so I can bring it back. We've done some changes in the Birdroom when Elliot was home from university. We've started to build the new bank of cages for the back wall, for the side wall. I'll probably do a slow motion capture of the activity that went into that. Basically at the moment all we've done is build a big box without a front on it, so there's not a huge amount to see. But I will get some video of that, just so that if anybody else wants to have a go at building some cages, you can see what I did and learn from my mistakes. But in the meantime, that's it for part 5. Please carry on liking and subscribing to the channel. It's really good to see the number of subscribers. I think we're over 250 already, so you're really encouraging me by keep on subscribing and liking my videos. So have a good weekend, and I'll see you all in the next one.